family, welcome to the Having with Pad. If you're tuning in for the first time, I welcome you. I really appreciate you being here. And if you're a regular fam, honey, you are greatly appreciated. I welcome you back. So in today's video, I will be answering some of the questions that you guys have been sending through about teaching and working in the UK on my DMs on Instagram and also in the comment section. Thank you so much for your questions. I really appreciate them. Just keep them coming. I'll try my best to answer them as soon as I possibly can. Without further ado, let's dive into today's video. I have my other phone here that I'll be referring to read out the questions. So the first question that I got was, I have been contacted by an agent, of which I will not name. My concern is rent prices. How much does it cost? So rent prices in the UK are different, right? Depending on which region of the UK you are in. London, obviously, it's going to be more. You're going to pay more rent if you live in London compared to if you live in the outskirts. For me, I live just outside London, about 45 minutes away from the city central. Obviously, you will get more pay, but then the day-to-day expenses are literally a bit high compared to the other parts of the UK, which obviously you'll have to spend more money. A normal one-bedroom apartment where I live would cost about £900 to probably £1.5, £1,500. Whereas if you live in London, in the city central, one bedroom apartment may cost about £1,500 to £2,500. And in other cities like obviously Manchester, Birmingham, Bristol, a one bedroom apartment may cost about £800 to £1,500, which is a bit better if you compare to London and other close areas. It's very important for you to do a research before you move to a place because prices are different across different regions of the UK. So do a research so that you can budget accordingly to the place that you are going to. And the second question is, are there any visa sponsorships that you can recommend? Okay, I don't get this question in terms of what sponsorship, because if you're talking about the visa sponsorship, the certificate of sponsorship, you get it from the school that you'll be working at. But if you're talking in terms of the sponsorship, that where you will get like an agent that will be able to cover all the moving costs. So as far as I know, if you come to the UK, you cover all your costs. It's very rare or unlikely that you find the school or an agent that will be able to cover all your moving costs. And the third question is, where do I start finding an accommodation after receiving a job offer? So that's going to be a tough one because you will not be able to get a rental accommodation while you're still in your own country. So the only option you have after you've received a job offer is to get yourself a B&B. So you'll be living in a B&B for a couple of weeks when you get here, or even a month. Simply because two reasons. For you to be able to get a rental accommodation in the UK, you will need a share code. A share code, it's what gives you the right or permit to rent an accommodation in the UK. And also you won't be getting that until you have your BRP, your British residential permit. And you won't be getting your BRP until a week or two after you get to the UK. You will collect it at your nearest post office. So you definitely need a BRP to be able to rent accommodation. An easy option for you is to live in a B&B for a couple of weeks. Or if you have relatives, obviously you can stay with the relatives until you get your things sorted out. And the second thing, obviously, if you want to rent an accommodation in the UK, you need references. But obviously, because you will be new in the UK, you won't have any previous references where you're living in the UK. Letting agents can move past that and only use your share code. But in future, when you've been here for a couple of years, they definitely need references to communicate with the landlord from your previous accommodation to see if you were paying rent accordingly, if you took good care of the property, if there are no damages, if you did not do anything, you did not cause any issues at all while you were staying in that particular property. So let's say you have got your British residential permit, you now have a share code, you are able to rent an accommodation in the UK. You will need to pay a deposit, right? So let's say your one bedroom apartment is £1,000. You will need to pay a deposit of £1,000. So in total, you will need to pay about £2,000, simply because you'll get your deposit at the end if you decide to move out, plus interest on top of that. If you break something while you're living in that particular property, you won't pay a single thing. So that whatever you have broken is able to be replaced without you paying for anything. Let's say maybe you broke a fridge, you broke something, so you won't pay anything for fixing that fridge, so they'll come and fix it for you. So that's why you need that deposit, for you to be paid in case something gets damaged. It will be easily replaced and you won't have to pay for anything. But there's also an option for a no deposit scheme. A no deposit scheme, if you choose to take that route where you don't have to pay another 1,000 for a deposit. So if you choose to go on the no deposit route, you have to take out insurance for your property. And also if something gets damaged or broken, you will be responsible for all the fees of that particular whatever thing you've broken. Whereas if you pay the deposit, if you break something while living in the property, you won't pay anything. Another thing I would recommend, that if you are like me, because I was moving on a very tight budget, you might want to consider living in a shared apartment for a couple of months before you move to a 1-bedroom apartment, because they are cheaper compared to having your own apartment. So in a shared apartment, you have your own bathroom and sometimes a bathroom, and you'll have to share the living area and the kitchen. I know it might be frustrating because it's like lack of privacy, but then if you are definitely moving on a tight budget, you might want to consider doing that, because it will save you a lot of money. Roughly, in a shared apartment, you will pay about, it starts from about £550 to about 850 pounds, depending if your 1-bedroom has a bathroom, it's an in-suite or not. But if you just get a 1-bedroom apartment, because sometimes you have to share the bathroom as well, and if you get a shared apartment like that, you will pay less, probably 550 to about 600 pounds. And whereas if you are having, or if you get your own 1-bedroom apartment, I've mentioned the cost before, it's about £1,000 to about £1,500. And the fourth question is, how do I contact the agents? So you can contact the agents you can register a profile on their website and upload your CV. And also if they have their email address on the website, you can also send them an email, and don't forget to attach your CV. That's like literally all you have to do, and wait. It's a waiting process. It can take a couple of weeks, but pretty much most of the times they definitely do respond. And the fifth question is, any advice you would give before a person comes to the UK? Okay, coming to the UK, coming to teach or coming to do a different job, because if you're coming to teach, I'll have to say you have to brace yourself. Brace yourself in terms of the culture shocks in schools. It's very huge. Well, for me, I think. So the behavior is very different from the one that we are, or you are used to in South Africa. It's very different. I think it needs, as a teacher, obviously, you need to have a lot of patience. You need to have a lot of kindness. You need to have a lot of love to give. You need to have a big heart. It's not very difficult, but it's very different to the one that we're used to. You need to have a lot of various behavior management skills. You have to study your students very well so that you will know how to best manage them in order to get that peace and calmness in your classroom. So behavior is the most thing that I'll say you need to prepare yourself for if you're coming to teach in the UK. And also there are behavior management policies which are fantastic that are placed in schools, and I think they're really working in terms of trying to get that peace and calmness in classrooms. And another advice that I would give you if you're coming to work in the UK is that you have to prepare yourself in terms of the cost of living. Yes, when they send you a job offer, you're definitely going to see the amount of money that you'll be getting paid. It's going to be very huge, but then you have to remember that you won't be living in South Africa with that salary, that you won't be spending that money in your own country. You have to do your research on the cost of living, and definitely you have to prepare yourself to spend on day-to-day expenses, because the cost of living in the UK is obviously high. So that's definitely something you'd have to prepare yourself for. Which part of the UK do you live in, and how is the cost of living? I think I have mentioned that, southeast of London, and the cost of living is slightly better compared to the city central in London. So London is the most expensive one. The cost of living is very high, and if you compare to the outskirts and other cities in the UK, so it is manageable. And as a teacher, if you're coming from a different country, coming to teach in the UK, you get a pay rise every year. And also there are some things that you can do, like extracurricular activities that you can do in schools, that will lead to you getting paid even more money. So it's really good. And our last question for today is, how do classroom settings in the UK compare to those in South Africa? So I would say the classroom setting, in a class you have about 20 to 25 students, sometimes even less than 20 if it's higher years. I think that is actually better because you get to have, it leads to more individual attention, and you'll be able to know your students better, and you are able to study them quickly and get to know more about their needs. And another thing is the use of technology. Everything here is done online. The kids use tablets. There are exercise books, but then they don't take the exercise books home. Only take their tablets and then come back the next morning and get their books in classes. Teachers use MacBooks, they have whiteboards, they have projectors. Students use tablets. Everything you do online, you communicate to the students online via emails. Also, the approach to discipline and behavior, it's very, very different. There are policies in place, or there are behavior management structures in place, which are mostly online. If you are struggling with a student in your classroom, you do a call out, someone comes and get them, or someone comes and discipline them. And just the behavior and discipline, I wouldn't really dive deeper into that because different schools have different policies. But yeah, discipline and behavior management, it's very different compared to the South African one. So that was our last question for the day. Thank you so much. Keep those questions coming in. I'll try my best to address them as soon as I can. I hope you enjoyed the video and you found it useful. Please don't forget to share it to someone that you know might need it and be helpful to them. So thank you so much for watching. See you next time. Bye-bye.